July 11th, Town Board meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Please remain standing. I'd like to have a moment of silence for past town supervisor Tom Murphy, who passed away over the weekend. He served from 1990 to 1999 as a supervisor for the town. Thank you. Roll call.
Jeff Renahan, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Michael Safone, Fourth Ward.
Matthew Williver, Fifth Ward.
Ann Schurshin, Sixth Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the Town.
John Baisley, Town Supervisor. We're going to start with the Committee of the Whole tonight. First presentation is Lexipol. They haven't arrived yet, so we're going to move on to the second presentation first, which will be Tinkelman Architecture, Traffic Control.
Good evening. I'm Jason Litchwick from Tinkelman Architecture. I'm here in front of you this evening to discuss the intersection at Van Wagner Road, Sites Terrace, and Springside Avenue. Last year, during our amended site plan approval with the Planning Board, part of our approval was to change the intersection from what is now a current traffic signal to a four-way stop. We went with, we consulted with Mazer about the traffic study, and it was decided upon that a four-way stop would be adequate for this intersection rather than updating the existing traffic light. Basically what we're going to be doing is on Van Wagner Road and Springside will be normal, regular stop signs. And what we're going to do on Sites Terrace, because it has a steep hill that comes down to the intersection, we're going to be putting in flashing LED stoplights, and we'll have a flashing LED stop ahead stop sign as well. And then this is also contingent upon getting our C of O for 33 Arlington.
Who did you say the expert was, you?
We went with Mazer, Phil Greeley.
And did he give you a report?
Yes, we had a traffic study report done when we did the development up on Hilltop and Center House.
And that included the stop signs?
Correct.
Concept of the stop signs?
At that point, it did not. When we went for adding on, when we started doing the development at 33 Arlington, we had to look at the traffic study again for what kind of, because this used to be a warehouse. It was Roundout Electric, and we're adding retail units and about 9 commercial tenant spaces. So we had to reevaluate the traffic and see if there was any impact, and it wasn't enough to keep it as a traffic light.
What wasn't enough?
The traffic that was being increased didn't demand for a traffic signal that we could do a four-way stop.
Mm-hmm. But there's a traffic signal now.
Correct.
So we're downgrading, aren't we?
Well, the traffic, yes. So the existing traffic light, when we made modifications to the intersection, the one traffic signal that faces Van Wagner Road is not centered in the road. It's a little off. And the whole system, we can't be updated. It's an outdated system. So in order to do anything, we'd have to bring the whole traffic light up to the new standards. And it's not necessary when the traffic can handle a four-way stop.
Okay.
Actually, I actually prefer the four-way stops. I think they're a lot safer.
Yeah, I agree, because that intersection was always very confusing. I plowed through it once, not seeing the light was way off to the side. It was ridiculous, because it used to seem almost like there were 5 roads coming in there together. It was really confusing.
Yeah, and even when we were doing work here, people just don't stop. They go right through. And I don't know, sometimes it seems like the timing may be off a little bit. But yeah, people would just.
And also, you don't have the traffic volume you used to.
Right.
No, we did close the one road over the years too, which had a heavy cut-through volume. Anybody, any other questions? No. Thanks.
Mr. Supervisor? Mr. Littrick? Hi. There's a resolution on tonight to set the public hearing for these changes, and I assume that you'll look at them. I believe that they track what's on the plans, but I'm sure you'll look and you'll let me know if you think there are any modifications that need to be made.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next public hearing is Mitchell Associates. Mike Welty, the Director of Development, is going to come in and give us a little bit of a
Presentation, right? No.
presentation. Yeah, presentation. Thanks, Felicia. Mike will give us a little bit of an update on where we stand. This is the grant we got through the county for the town of Poughkeepsie and Arlington Fire District on possible relocation, consolidation of town facilities. Moving out for an RFP. We got back.
Thank you.
It was
They're
5.
going to steal all my
Yeah,
thunder
okay,
here.
steal some of your
so-
thunder, Mike.
all right.
We had 5 possible candidates, and we whittled it down. Mike, you can finish it up.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, just to add a little bit of detail to that, the RFP was issued on March 14th. We did have a pre-proposal meeting and a tour of the town facilities, including town hall and the police department and court facility, and also, of course, the Arlington Fire Department headquarters down the road, which is also part of this, meant to be part of this study. That was on April 20th. We received proposals on May 8th. We got 4 complete proposals, and they were reviewed by the supervisor, Chief Spiro, Chief Torrey Galante from the fire department, and myself. We selected 2 of the 4 to interview. Interviewed them all on June 12th and met a few days later, and it was our unanimous choice that the firm that Mitchell Associates and Bob Mitchell's here tonight was the best choice for the project. We are working on the agreement language and so forth that would be necessary to actually hire them, and we hope to have that for you, if not next week, in August. But in the meantime, we wanted to have Bob come in, just do a very quick presentation about his team and what they hopefully show you why we thought they were such a good fit. So that's it.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm Bob Mitchell. This is my associate Ken Gale. We're both in the firm Mitchell Associates Architects. For the purpose of this project, we've brought together a variety of people to work on these particular design goals, and they are representative of what was said in the RFP. It's consolidation. We want to provide something that's operationally correct. We believe very strongly in an inclusive design process, which means the purposes are determined from talking to the users. It should be user-friendly, meaning the community will feel comfortable coming and being part of it. It should be safe and healthy, which is a particularly important issue at this point in the fire service with the cancer exposure that I think everybody's aware of at this time. And a building can enhance the morale and effectiveness of the people that work in it if they feel that their tasks are laid out for them in the building in a way that's efficient and respectful of their efforts. We want to focus on training obligations that we have to provide to the staff. It should be energy efficient. It's a permanent building. So we are looking to always pursue the lowest life cycle cost for the building, and I'd be happy to talk more about that. The team is made up of Mitchell Associates, Castle Booz, which is another architectural firm out of New England whose specialty is police. Michael McCune is one of the partners there. He and I went to school together a long time ago and have worked together for the last 12 or 14 years jointly on fire, police, and combined facilities. Williams Architects is a firm from Chicago, but Ted Stromsweld from that firm has moved here and is now working with us. And Williams is coming in as a team member because they've done 23 different municipal facilities that involve campus consolidation of different functions and can bring that knowledge to us. Manitou Incorporated is Charles Jennings out of Peekskill. I'll talk a little more about him. But his specialty has to do with forecasting of need and location analysis with regard to issues of time, response time. Berger Engineering, which you're all familiar with, I'm sure, is in for the civil piece of the design. CMA is a firm that does financial analysis. They're located in Hopewell Junction, and they'll be in the project for the purpose of analyzing the tax implications. And NASCO Construction Services is an estimating firm that has worked with us on maybe 50 facilities that we've done so far. Combined facilities. We're doing a project right now for Beacon, which is a study of a combined facility on Main Street. In Philadelphia, we're doing a project that is combined fire station and commercial development. In Ellsworth, Maine, we're working on a project that's combined fire and police. With KBA, that's Castle Booze, we've worked on 22 public safety facilities that are combined. Other than that, KBA has done 70 police facilities. I thought that was a higher number. I apologize if I misled you before. And Williams has done over 80 municipal projects, 23 of which are these campus-type combined facilities. So Charles Jennings will do the forecasting. He has a PhD in the subject. He teaches it at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. His clientele range from small projects like Putnam Valley to a long-range master plan for the city of Seattle. And he and I have worked for the last decade on a variety of projects, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. Williams Architects, these are typical examples of the projects that they have done. And we're very happy that they're on the team because they understand all of the issues of intersecting all of these different municipal activities on a given site. What could be shared, what can't, how it gets organized. Ourselves, we've done over 150 public safety facility projects, primarily fire stations, that address over 280 facilities. For instance, right now in the city of Philadelphia, we're designing their Station of the Future and a package of elements that they can apply across their spectrum of 65 stations, some of which are over 100 years old, to bring them up to date with regard to firefighter safety and health, gender equity, sound night's sleep, ADA, and all of that. These are just some images of some of the things. The things locally in the upper left is Putnam Valley, upper center is Peekskill. One up from the bottom in the middle is Phillipstown, and the rest of them are scattered all over. We work as far away as Alaska. We have quite a few jobs going now on the Cape and Nantucket and up in Maine. So KBA, as you see the cluster of their locations of the projects they've worked on, that is the floor plan of Nantucket, the red element being fire, the blue element being police, the yellow being shared. And so we do that a lot, and you can see the scale of the projects they work on. We worked with them on Holden, Mansfield, and Needham, but not Boston and Cambridge, but you can see the scale of what they're capable of doing. They and we work to these standards that exist out there, and in fact, in the center is the standards for the IAFC fire station design. I wrote one of the chapters in it. It happened to be the chapter on renovations and additions to fire stations. We're very conscious of the amount of exposure that not only the occupants of the building have, but the municipality has. Because if nothing is done to protect the people in it by the municipality, they will ultimately be found liable of negligence. So we make that our single highest priority in our design. And this is an example from a fire station that we're currently working on, and it's all about how a contaminated person becomes a clean person, and how contaminated items become clean items, and how we keep the contamination from getting into the living spaces and the office spaces. Training is the other big feature. Firefighters have to be well-trained to be effective. Police officers have to be well-trained to be effective, to avoid the things that you read about that often come back to there was a shortage of training. So we build in every conceivable opportunity for training to occur in the daily operation of the building. And we hear back that they're very grateful for that, and they do it. Sharon, Massachusetts, the fire chief said, we only have 2 structure fires a year here anymore. The training is incredibly important because they don't get trained on the job fighting fires. So we have to train them, every week in the station. So attention to details. We are very committed to designing from day one at a very deep level of detail. So when we do our programming and it says this room is this size, you will have a diagram like that and you'll have text like that that will justify why it's that size. There's not going to be any guesswork about is the building really that size. You'll be able to look and determine and of course disagree if you choose to with the assumptions or the conclusions for any given room. But you will have that information on a room-by-room basis. So why this team? We have deep expertise, we have proven ability, we stay ahead of the curve in knowledge. Every day we're reading something new that has to do with these issues. And that's because that's all we do. I myself only design fire stations, so I know about them. We have a lot of experience in the team, and we will bring that experience to your project. So the steps that you called for in the project started with evaluating the existing structures. These happen to be pictures from a similar evaluation we did for Beacon, and it is the cornerstone for being able to describe to the constituents why you're doing this. You have to tell them what's wrong. Projecting growth, this is Charles Jennings will do. This happens to be from one of his projects, a growth projection analysis. I can talk further about any of this, but I know you'd like me to be kind of brief with all this. The programming, as I indicated before, is highly detailed. We know what happens in the room, what pieces of equipment it needs, what traffic flows through it, and how things get maintained and how you get access to them to maintain them. All of that's addressed. Response analysis, this is mostly Charles Jennings, Manitou. These are 3 projects that we've done together locally. And they are, if you're not familiar with the maps and you want to know more about it, I can tell you more later, but it does allow you to determine that you are placed in the correct location with regard to providing services that you need to provide for the community. Once we are at the point of having a site or two in mind to analyze, we will set up the bases of judging them on a side-by-side basis. We've done this many times. Often it's 3 or 4 sites. It's been as many as 20 sites. And we will have a diagnostic tool that you can look at to see why the individual site was scored higher or lower than another. We will be doing project cost analysis once we have a size and a site to look at, because site development costs are, they're an independent variable from the building itself generally. But so this will be done by NASCO, the construction estimator. We will work on it, and CMA will be involved in the implications of cost on the long-term financing. We will be providing seeker information for the selected site. Is it more than one site we're doing it for? One site. And that will be led by Berger. And then, so CMA, which is Capital Markets Advisors at Hopewell Junction, you can see they do a lot of this. There's several 400 municipalities. Then you see the bottom bullet for the city of Poughkeepsie, they developed a strategic fiscal development plan, and they are in to provide the information so you know the tax implications and what the different options are for pursuing it. We will be developing conceptual designs for the buildings and for the site that will allow you to see how it's going to work and to prove that it works. And ultimately, we'll end up with a report for you that is going to be robust and allow you to substantiate to your constituents the conclusions that have been made. So, and the entire team will participate in developing that report. Timeline, it's about a 5-month project. So depending, if we start in August, you'll be done more or less by the first of the year. And it needs that much time in large part because of the data collection and the decision-making processes. So, questions?
Anyone got any questions at this point?
Okay, so this is just one quick question. Have you had any experience rehabbing an existing building? converting over an existing building
Absolutely.
into the, okay, oh, that's good, because we
the-
have several of those around here too.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, have we narrowed it down to one site already that we're interested in, or it's?
No.
We're looking at the whole town?
We haven't begun a thing. We have no preconceptions.
Okay, and you're gonna
And-
do all this in 5 months, okay.
Yeah. The chapter that I wrote in the IAFC design manual
Right.
was on renovation. And
Excellent.
in the National Fire Station Design Competition, we've gotten the gold prize 4 times. 2 of those were renovations.
Excellent.
So, and Phillipstown, though it's hard to call it a renovation because it was stripped basically to the skeleton, is a renovation. They saved about $400,000 on the total project cost by approaching it in that manner. So it's worth doing.
Yeah.
It was annoying to live through because they were operating out of it during all of that. And the phasing of all that so they could continue to operate was tricky. And they had to not interfere with Little League.
Priorities. Anybody got any other questions? No. Thanks, gentlemen. And if anybody does have any questions, field them to Mike, and Mike can be in touch with them.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
We're very happy to be working on this project.
Our next presentation is going to be from Lexipol with the chief.
Give me that.
All right, while the chief's getting ready, getting set up on the computer, I'll tell you how we got to this point. About 2 years ago, I started talking to Jessica Levenberg, who's the senior account executive with Lexipol, about their law enforcement policy and training solution. We had a couple months of conversation, and at that time, we were up against our accreditation reassessment. So I decided to back off so we can get ready for that. And then we moved into the project that we just went live with at the beginning of June, the New World, the transition for our LERMs and CAD and mobile system. What we're finding out now that we're using that, a lot of our procedure, part of our policy needs a significant amount of reworking because a lot of the terminology is different. Reference to blotter is no longer in our language. They have a different name for it. So stuff of that nature, we're starting to find we're going to have to do some serious work on that, which brought me back to Lexipol again and thinking that the timing is right to transition to this. This is a phenomenal product. They're the only company that I could find that's doing it this way. And I reached out through Jessica to see if Chief Rinaldi could come down and present tonight. I sent you guys the brief PowerPoint that he had prepared. So if they had any questions, he can give an overview of the product. And let me tell you a little bit about the chief, just so you know what we're dealing with. You know, the best companies usually hire the best people. And Chief Rinaldi retired in 2016. He was the chief of Glenville, New York for 10 years. He's an attorney. Presents at various legal issues, search and seizure, use of force, legal aspects of interrogations, confessions, civil liability, and on and on. He's a consultant instructor for the New York State DCJS. He's been given training sessions, of which I've attended many of them throughout the state on behalf of DCJS for the last 10 or 11 years. He's a past president of New York State Chiefs, a member of the IACP Professional Standards Image and Ethics Committee, and he was the chairman of the New York State Police Law Enforcement Accreditation Council. We are an accredited agency. He's also an author, which wasn't in his bio. And if he's ready,
Sure.
I'll turn it over to the chief.
Hi, sorry I'm late. My night started out a little differently. I got to see what it's like to wait for a police car to come and take a report from somebody rear-ending me before I even got out of the town of Colony to come down, but I still made it. So anyway, thank you, Chief, for the introduction. And being a veteran of many of these meetings, I don't want to really waste your time. So what I'd like to do is, you already have the PowerPoint, which is we use kind of as, just to give an overview. I could go over that again with you, but my thought was just to kind of show you what it is and what we have to offer. So, as the chief said, I had 32 total years in law enforcement, 22 at Colony, and then 10 with the town of Glenville. And policy was always a struggle for me, even at Colony, 110 officers, and I was on the accreditation committee and stuff. So it was always a challenge to try and keep up with things. We would take policies from each other, from different departments. We do find and replace, and even it was hard on an Adler manual typewriter, but back then. But so it just wasn't the optimal way to do it. And as I grew in my profession and as I started teaching more and more and dealing with risk management, I realized how bad it is to not have good sound policies. It's the building blocks of police departments. And a lot of the problems that we see now start with the lack of policies that can actually be understood. So this is essentially our platform. It's an online platform. You don't need to download complex software or anything. It's wherever you can log into the internet, you can see it. This is the town of Glenville. So this is, we have what's been issued. This is the current manual. What we have is the ability for, I don't know if your legal staff is here, but we can determine if you get interrogatories during a discovery process for lawsuits and everything, we can tell immediately what our policies, how they read on a given day, just from our archive that we have here available. That's just one that I'm just going to kind of go through things as they pop up here. And then this is the actual manual itself. Oh, you're killing me. We just updated well, you're going to see, Chief, I'm doing this for the Glenville chief. He never thanks me, but I do a lot of work. I do a lot of work for him. Okay. Killing me. Today's just great. Just having a great, let me see if I can bypass this. Yes, so we have 10 chapters. We have the law enforcement role and authority, and organization administration. We have general operations where we get into use of force and all different related specific policies that officers can go to if they need to know. Essentially, look, why I went with Lexipol when I was still chief, and then why I allowed them why I tied my horse to them, so to speak, was because they get it. And I believe in their product. Their content it's concise, it's understandable. That yellow that you see, that means that's accreditation tagging. That indicates that that's relevant to one of the New York State Law Enforcement Accreditation Program standards. So anyway, it's all there. The officers can search. They can put it on their phones. They can put it on their MDTs, the mobile data terminals in the cars. Wherever you can get an internet signal, you can get it, or you can PDF and do it that way. The other thing that's nice is we have what are called daily training bulletins. So what this allows, these are all the packages that Glenville has gone through. Looks like I gotta get on the chief about June's, but he loves having me sneaking in and seeing all this stuff. So this is the May package that was issued. What this allows you to do is the officers can get in. It takes about 2 to 4 minutes a day, theoretically. They're 30 a month. Officers can go in And they can do them all at once, they can do them a little bit at a time. This one should be, I'll just pick this one, should be foot pursuits. So what happens is, this is the administrator's view, it's not exactly how they see it, but they'll have a scenario. So they have a fact-based scenario. Sometimes there are actual real situations that have occurred. They could be based on cases, they could be based on what our training people find in the news that happened. And so they create a scenario, and then what the system does is it automatically pulls out the section of the manual that is relevant to the issue statement in, this follows what was called IRAC in law school, but it sets forth the issue, and then there's a process that's followed. We have an analysis here that our training people do. We have a conclusion, and then the officers just need to answer a simple question. And all this is documented. You can run all kinds of reports. You can tell there's all reporting available for how many DTBs officers have taken or not taken. That's just tells you that's not relevant for our discussion here, the override. But policy acknowledgement, I could tell when I was at Glanville, and I could tell for any of our customers who's reading, who's not reading, who's been acknowledging. We can produce proof that officers read and acknowledged. But look, the real value of this system is that it's designed, and I'll just sum up what the PBA president said to me when we met before we made all the policies effective at Glenville. He looked at me and said, Chief, it's the first time in 17 years that I actually understand what is expected of me by policy. And that is what I personally take a lot of pride in. Now, in the background, do we cost money? Yes, we cost money. But there's a lot of work. This is what's called, the customers never see this except if they have me showing it to them, but this is what goes on in the background. So we have development e-rooms, we have legislative e-rooms. So like, for instance, I haven't been in this one in a bit here, but for every state that we're in, 35 states right now, they track all the legislation. So in Albany, there's like generally per legislative session, there's about 3,000 bills that are introduced. Obviously, not all of those are passed, but they track, our legal people track, God knows what our Westlaw bills are, but they track all that. And when we have updates that are necessary, they'll put them out. So like, let's see, let me just hit, so here's New York. There's 60 in here from the 2017 year that they were tracking. And if they found it necessary to update our policies, they did that. And then what happens is in the manual, so an administrator, say the chief or one of his people, would see that there would be a banner across the top up here that would say you have updates available, and then through the chapters you would see. I went into the supplemental one by mistake here. Through the chapters you would see which policies specifically, and then they give you. And then it appears side by sides with the markup visible, so you can see what language so the officers can see what language, or the administrator can see what language has changed, decide whether they want it, accept it, reject it, modify it, and then issue. So, again, I realize your time is valuable, so I obviously do this. This is my life now. Everybody keeps saying I'm retired, and I'm beginning to look back at my chief days as if that was fairly relaxing, and it wasn't. But anyway, if there's any questions, I could.
We have the Raise the Age coming out now.
Yep.
I think it'd be good for my fellow board members to understand the implications of that to us as a municipality if one of our police officers is not right up to date. This year, 18, and this October, we're going to 16, and next October, we're going to 18. What it is the legislature changed the age of criminal responsibility from 16 to 18. so that before 16, before this law, when you were 16, you were a juvenile delinquent. Committed an act, if committed by an adult, was a crime. And there's a whole thing in the family court set to do that. Once you passed the magic age of 16, you went into the real adult courts. Well, New York State has cut out 17 and 18-year-olds. Now, they just didn't simply change the date. They changed the whole process in dealing with these individuals. So I think, Chief, it might be good if you just quickly go through. I'm a policeman working here in the town, and it's now October, and this just went through. The training notice that I get, the tracking that the administration has, so that it's like a micro picture for all of us to understand. Bottom line is, if we go past October and one of our police officers doesn't do this the right way, the liability that will attach to that comes directly to us. This is really important stuff, and this is the best system that I've ever seen for doing this. And I've known the chief for quite a few years, back in the chief days. So I think it would help everybody if you just took whatever 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just go through how this updates the cops coming in October.
Yeah, so what will happen then is that we're our legal team, and I'll probably be working on it too, because we're still actually processing the new discrimination changes that came out and waiting for the Department of Health, because the discrimination laws changed in New York, and that has some implications, but we have to wait for the Department of Health to come out with a model policy to see what they're going to require. So we're prioritizing things as they come through. But as far as the raise the age, Bill, I mean, you bring up it's going to be a dramatic change for policing in general. Not really a huge policy change. What it will be is a procedural change. And what I mean by that is the policy itself, most of the policy will basically stay intact. What will change is, and the significant thing that I frequently, as a member of the board of governors for the state chiefs, tried to bring up to the governor's office, is the fiscal impact on capital improvements that are going to be necessary, because you're going to have 16 and 17-year-old kids that now cannot go into the secure booking areas of police departments across this state. So you could have a 17-year-old, 250-pound, go to a high school football game and look at some of and you're not going to be able to put them where you can put them today. So you're going to need a whole separate room. So separate booking area. I don't know how this is going to impact LiveScan or Data Masters if people are. So I guess my point is a lot of that is going to be procedural that we'll try to make our customers aware of, that they need to do something. We can't dictate how you set up your building, right? That's well beyond policy. But you need to be aware that now, for instance, our juvenile policy is now going to involve a whole nother group of people, 16 and 17-year-olds. Actually, the most affected is going to be probation. They're going to get hammered with this. So anyway, as the content does change for that, we will send out updates. And then in those updates, we include what are called release notes. I don't know if that one we haven't changed the use of force in a little while. And the release notes explain what is going on with this. The release notes explain what the changes are and why the things changed. Did I go back into the supplemental?
Does that come down in the training notice to the individual officer? What I see attractive in the system is the ability for the individual police officer to stay right on the money with respect to all these changes. So we don't have an out-of-policy action, which creates a liability issue.
Correct. Then they will stay right on. So does this have a. This is what the officers will see. So anytime there's a change to the policy, they have to, or a policy is issued, they have to read the whole policy, and then there's a statement here, and then they acknowledge the policy. So, and you can compare to see what has changed. So as we put out as we put out changes, the officers will be able to see, okay, this is what's changed now, this is what I have to do differently. So you can see here, like here in Glenville, we took out the carotid control hold because we only allow it if it's going to be for, if deadly physical force is justified. The base manual allows it in because that's an option that you can keep or not keep. So that's why it's important to see what the changes are. So we're not going to accept that, right? We're gonna modify it accordingly. So this is just an example of how that works. So if I'm not answering your question directly,
the main point is then the officer gets those daily training notices or updates that come out. So we have a bunch of officers working, they all get it the same day, the same time, and because of the workload, they might not be able to read it till the next day or to a past day, in which case then they knock it off, and the sergeant, the lieutenant, the captain, and the chief all know that that officer is up to date on the policy. Whatever the policy is, use of force to driving to where you can park the car. Those are all the policies that I'm talking about. So the advantage we have is that amount of information going to the officers, where before, the policy's in a 3-ring binder. And after you're in trouble, you go and look at it.
yeah, that pretty much sums it up. How many police departments, it's, the gotcha type manual, right? That's not what we are.
So this way,
So-
it's upfront, officer-centered, protective to the municipality because of the policy knowledge of the individual officers, and it's right up to date.
And yes, and the officers, I'm sorry, and the officers are continuously trained on the policy through the daily training bulletin. So say if 30 are put out in a given month, then probably 3, 4, 5 of those will be somehow related to one of the use of force related policies, dealing with somebody that's mentally ill. Vehicular pursuits will be a couple, possibly taser, I assume you have tasers.
Yep.
And so forth. So the high-risk ones are hit, but also the lower ones. The sick leave policy, is it appropriate to call in sick under these circumstances? So.
Well, let me just say, when you brought up to raise the age, I seen a couple people go, are we ready for this? So we are going our supervisors starting the first week of August are getting trained by the county attorney on what the expectations are and how to handle it here in Dutchess County. So we're on top of that, Bill.
I knew that.
How often are significant policy changes like this? Are we expecting these daily, monthly, yearly?
It really depends. They generally try to put out at fixed times twice a year. But those are only if they're not urgent updates, because one of the other things that goes on in the background, it's not all just legislative or case law based. It's also, we have people that are constantly sifting through what are best practices. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, a big issue is that a couple issues come to mind. Identification procedures. So what's the best way to do a photo array to a person? Sequential, meaning one picture in 6 different folders and unfold them, or what we call the traditional 6-pack is what my whole career was doing. So, Lexipol went through that in that e-room that I showed you, and they went through a development process, and they reached out to the Innocence Project, and they reached out to the National District Attorneys Association. They reached through, and they came to the conclusion that we would suggest to our customers that they do sequential. That was their conclusion. It's not definitive. There's no definitive, but we have customers in New York that say, yeah, well, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to continue to do the 6-pack, and that's okay. But that's just an example of how some of the updates like that, they'll be put into one of those 2 fixed updates because it's not like really urgent.
Right.
But when you have earlier this year, the legislature, the governor signed into law a bill that changed our traffic DWI enforcement policy a little bit, that now mandates field sobriety testing at scenes of accidents where a serious traffic infraction occurred. So we put out an update within, I think, somewhere around a week of that being signed, and before it became effective. So those.
So they're sort of triaged.
So those just come out, right? If you need it, the sex kit one, I'm sorry, the sexual assault kits there's been a lot of controversy. And then the legislature passed a bill that required DCJS to determine who has kits that they have not submitted to the lab. So that was another immediate one that we put out. That was actually last year, I think. And so that's why it kind of depends what it is.
You know, and look, we're doing a lot of this now on our own, but my fear is we're going to miss stuff. We try to take a best practices approach. We try to follow. We're following some of what the chief referred to as the old days, where we're getting model policies and what I've been trying to do is get policies from larger departments that probably have their own legal staff to review. But it's getting more and more complex. There's a lot more research now. Best practices are changing. Obviously, like the chief referred to earlier, New York State likes to pass a lot of laws. And it's also from my training that some of the trainings and seminars I've been to, and I hope the chief agrees now that I'm saying this, but it's not just enough anymore to say, here you got the book. And look, the guy signed that he got the book. It's these daily training bulletins help substantiate that he has some understanding of what's in the policy, which and we're going to have it right at our fingertips. It's just a whole nother level of professionalism that I don't think we can get to without significant investment of time. And we already invest a lot of time in trying to stay on top of this manual. A significant amount of time, multiple people in our building that could be supervising their squads and doing other things. So that's why I wanted to move in this direction as well.
It seems as though the initial implementation of this system is going to take a lot of time from every officer just to make sure that they've gone through and acknowledged, not to mention all of the updates that are going to happen. Is there a plan for how to deal with just the initial input of time?
Yeah, I'm working, in my current position, I'm actually oversee all the New York operations. We have 80-some agencies now. Some of those are fire, but the bulk of them, and some are custody. We have jail manuals too, but most of those are law enforcement. Anywhere from 2 or 3 officer departments to 2,800 sworn down in Suffolk County. That's a massive project that we're going through right now. So, and it's funny, when you talked about larger departments with legal, they were like, this is great, so we don't have to worry about this anymore, and they're like huge. So, but they're, so what we do is, and I just had this discussion today with Chief Shupp over Blooming Grove, and so we're well into his implementation. So what we're going to start doing is, while we continue to move forward, he's going to start doing what we call an incremental release. So that means that while we're working in the background, helping to, because that's what your proposal includes, is actually working with somebody from our company. I would be overseeing it if it were to come. And so while that's going on, once we get to a certain point, we can start releasing them. So the officers, so we have 2 things going on at once. The officers are already starting to read and acknowledge the policies that are ready, but in the meantime, we're continuing to keep working so that we can try and cut the process.
So they're not hit with the whole book all at once and they have to do everything?
No, that's the,
okay,
we call that the dump truck approach, and I have, you hear the beep beep and you run away from the chief's office, but the, no, look, it's a lot of work up front. I'm not gonna, you can't just take a police policy manual, here's 155 policies, good luck. Yeah. You have to go through one by one, you have to make sure that you have to make a lot of modifications to make sure that it fits your agency. You know, what do you allow? What type of pursuit intervention techniques do you allow, if any, excuse me? You know, the carotid control hold was another one that example that, you know, for the most part, not in New York. And, you know, all different things. So it's a process, but once it's done, then it's like, here's the keys, and you just sit back and process your updates. So.
Any other questions? I think it's a step in the right direction. As you said, Chief, going forward, instead of you having to do all the legwork to find it, dealing in local things, to have this background definitely is a positive approach to take.
Especially with the new update in the computer system.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, and again, I apologize for my being late. And just get out of here. Shut
The
this
next on the committee, the whole, we have committee reports. Jeff, you want to just start with yours, and we'll just work across the,
No report.
no report? Bill, you got any structure report?
For committees?
Yeah.
No, do you want me to report on the Comprehensive Review Committee as part of my report on the regular committee?
No, you can do that separately as we move on. You know,
Okay.
you had your-
Comprehensive Review was a master plan review. We have a committee. They had their first meeting. It's going to be a process. And we have some excellent people on the committee. And I hope to shepherd it as quickly as I can through the process. Quickly is 18 to 24 months. But we have started this journey with our first step. There will be a web page, not a web page, a email address. The whole key of this system is to actively seek input from all of the people in our town, all of the stakeholders, the schools, the neighborhoods, the departments that we have. And each time I talk about this, I will be saying the same thing as soon as I have the email address. If you have a question, you have a concern, this is your time. We do this every 10 years. It's important, and if you don't want to wait, I'm on the letterhead for the town. Send the email to me, and I'll make sure it gets asked where it goes. But we're looking forward to having as much input as we possibly can.
Nothing to report. Matt, you got any report? Yeah.
Yes. We're meeting next week for the Recreation Committee. I'm happy to report that at the Senior Center, the 2 new automated doors have been installed, so that's a good step ahead. Summer camp is on the way, and it's 89% full. And just want to remind everybody, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, Greenville Park, the concert series has started, so.
We had a good turnout last night. I think about 200 last week with the heat. I think we came close to 100, and I don't blame anybody for staying home.
Yeah.
It was a little on the warm side. All right, that's the end of the committee reports. On to town board agenda items. Our first is a public hearing on a zoning amendment for Forson Apartments on Sheaf Road. I can make a motion to open that public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gentlemen?
Good evening, all. Patrick Moore, the attorney for Forsons.
Bill Povell, I'm the engineer for the applicant for Four
Welcome.
Sons.
Welcome.
So you want me to start, or?
Just start, give us a little heads up on what's.
We're before the board tonight for a request on a rezone of a 4-acre parcel on Sheaf Road, just north of the old gym, just north of the Camelot Road intersection and south of where Sheaf Road and Route 9 intersect. We're before the planning board right now with the site plan application. We've gone through extensive review on our proposed plan, which includes 2 buildings, each having 12 two-bedroom apartment units. There's 6 on the first floor and 6 on the second floor. So with this plan, we're proposing a total of 24 multifamily units on the 4-acre parcel. And that would be in compliance with the residential multifamily zone.
Bill, hold on one second. You guys can't see that, right? Felicia, can you just spin that so a couple of residents from there, they see or look up at the TV and there's nothing on there. Just spin it so the resident.
I can zoom in.
What?
Oh,
It's up on the screen.
there we go.
Before you get in the houses.
There we go.
So the plan we're proposing, again, is multifamily. We feel it's consistent with the neighborhood. You have Casper Ridge apartments to the rear. You've got the Camelot Mobile Home Park just to the south. Right now, the property's within the general business district, and when you look at the intent of the general business district, it's really meant for a high-volume highway like Route 9, which is not the case here with Sheep Road. This is more of a feeder road for the residential, for majority of residential neighborhoods in that area. I don't know, Pat, if you have anything else to
Well,
add.
no, I think I'm probably repeating what everybody sitting here knows, is that the planning board unanimously recommended to the town board that this zoning change was appropriate, and that was after probably 6 or 7 meetings, comprehensive meetings. We're down to last-minute items with the planning board, and it was well received by them. We think it serves the town well. In our original application, we made note of the fact that there is a shortage of housing for this type of property. And we also pointed out that it's a good location. It's about 5 minutes from the train station. We think it will fill up. It's probably the highest and best use. And to reiterate what Bill said, the notion of it being a highway business location does not cut it. So we're asking to proceed.
Does it have any impact on any existing houses now? Because there are some rather large houses there. Just
I think the only housing that's there is to the rear, and that's the Casper Kill Townhouse.
Casper Gill's to the rear, and then you get the few houses once you start
No, there's
Casper Hill
nothing.
Road. There's a couple of houses on the right, and there's a few houses on the left. Do you guys have any questions? Would you like to come up and address the board in reference to the project that you may not know? They're one of the residents that live right along that. You want to come up? So, yeah. No, well, I want to make sure you're informed.
I'm just wondering how that will impact the wooded area in the back.
If you could have a seat and speak into the mic.
Push them out of the way.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, we just want to make sure your questions are answered, and these are the guys that can answer them for you.
I am just, I'm a resident on the road and.
If you could have a seat, honey, I'm sorry, right into the mic.
Okay.
Sorry.
you have to state your name.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Just state your
Right.
name for the record, please.
And your name is?
Mary Williams.
There you go. Thank you. Sorry about that.
I'm just wondering how that will impact the wooded area in the back. Is that gonna disappear more, or? There's also a beautiful stream back there,
Casper Kill Creek, yep.
yeah, and lots of huge trees.
Yep. Where specifically is your home?
Let's see. Maybe this one. Let's see. It's probably,
This is the complex here.
yeah.
There's the
And
creek.
is this the gymnastics
Yep.
what used to be?
Yeah.
So we're over here.
Okay, so,
This is what you're proposing here?
yep. So what I can tell you is
Because we can all, there's a lot of noise already next door to us
The
And-
trucking warehouse.
that has been, but we're also here now on Route 9. we hear Route 9 from our road. We never could before.
So the concern,
And also, concern is what kind of housing will it be?
And also, what are they gonna do with Gymnastic Cities? That building is just,
That's not
became a
part- yeah.
parking lot for Mazda.
Yeah, it's not part of that project.
It's not?
We
Okay.
have nothing to do with that, no? And my client, the issue that you raised came up in the context of the planning board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And our client from Four Sons Realty, he's a developer, he's a substantial developer. You can't, not everybody can see this, but I have it in front of me, and he drew this for the benefit of both the planning board and anybody that was concerned. And it shows the tree line that you're talking about, and the intention is to leave the trees in place.
I can add to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Pat, can you hold that up at all so they can see it?
Yeah.
I don't know how well this could be, I don't know how well this could be seen, but with the site plan, okay. With the site plan, one of the concerns with the planning board was what the impacts would be to the rear of the property and the natural buffer where the Casper Kill Creek is between the proposed project and the Casper Ridge property, as well as the residents, which are much further to the south. And what we've done with this particular site plan is we located the buildings and the parking lot towards the front of the property, which maximized the disturbances to the rear. In fact, that there's a mound or a high area on the property that was filled many, many years ago. And all the development that we're proposing with the building and the parking lot is in that area towards the front. So what we were able to do is preserve predominantly the entire buffer, the existing tree buffer between our project and the Casper Ridge development to the rear. So right now, from the last unit to the first building is 440 feet, and we're able to preserve 226 feet of existing vegetation, which is fairly close to what exists now. There's just a small area to the rear of this property that would be disturbed for the grading to make the project work. So to answer the question, very little of the disturbance will occur in that natural buffer. We've done everything we can to preserve that buffer. And I've even gone out there and stood on the hill and looked through to Casper Ridge during the winter when the leaves were off the trees, and it was very hard to see the buildings.
And how about, I'm sure you can see my house back there. So I know where you're talking about, that dump site back.
Yeah, I wasn't able to see.
So I don't know, 224 feet from Casper Kill, but
It's not a lot.
what about,
To the homes, I'm just guessing, just scaling from the drawing, it's well over 1,000 feet to the first home.
Well, my concern is about more traffic. I leave 3 o'clock in the morning, and cars are racing down Sheaf Road as it is now to get to the train. Because they can't leave 5 minutes earlier from their house, for whatever reason. But now you're putting more traffic going up to the mall, okay, where there's problems with that traffic area right now as we speak. So you're increasing all that. And also, the fact is, they've just built the hotel up on the corner. I can hear noise in my backyard from them working on that unit. So, I mean, this is gonna
you're
be an
taking away
ongoing
from
thing for months. I mean, I'm in the construction field. I know how long basically this project's gonna take to build. So we gotta live with all this noise for all this time.
How long should the project take?
The intention would be to build this within a year,
But how long is the actual construction?
about a year. And all the construction would be in compliance with the town code and laws. Where construction and noise can only occur, I believe, between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. or I might be off a little bit with the time, but it's generally in that time frame. So all there's no special permits or requests that are being requested for any construction beyond the normal procedures outlined within the town.
Well, I know if I've called the town about the,
Typically, we have one person speak at a time. I don't know if you want to sit and.
no, I'm just
say
saying,
something.
right now, I'm going through problems with the property next door, with the trucks backing in at 3 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, loading up potato chips and so forth. Called numerous times, so they turn off the backup alarm, but they're still going in there with tractor trailers. They shouldn't even be on the road, because it's a town road, it's not a highway.
That's a different issue. I mean, you brought that up once and they did stop, but I haven't heard since then. We can address that on a different,
You know,
no, further, yeah.
And I will point out with residential uses, you don't typically have the trucks, similar to that condition.
Are these market rate or are these geared to seniors or?
Market rate.
Market rate, yeah.
What does that mean? Can you explain that?
Regular pricing. It's not low income and it's not high end. It's middle class.
Could be families, seniors, anybody who could afford to buy it.
Rent it.
Right.
See what happens. Not, we just sell. Right?
And they're 2-bedroom units?
Yes.
And how many square feet, how large are the unit apartments?
They're approximately 1,080 square feet per unit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could you just state your name, just for the record?
My name, Lauren Muffs.
Thank you.
know me.
Thanks.
Ma'am, did you want to speak?
Must be-
Millie Colarusso, I live on Toll Tree Lane.
Do you have anything you would like to
We
say?
both live on
Anything you would like to,
35 Toll Tree Lane.
Okay.
Casper Hill.
thank you. Anybody on the board have any questions?
No, like I said, we looked at the first drawings, and we thought they needed to do a design change, and they came back, and I agree that, like I said, we do need some more housing in this area. And like I said, it is looking at just the 24 units, and I think, Jay, you looked at it also, right, with the changes, and the design looks nice. It fits in that area.
Mr. Wiltie, currently zoned BH,
Business highway, yeah.
what could be there without a zoning change? What could somebody come in and put there? What's in a BH zone?
Predominantly retail.
Strip mall type operations?
Strip mall,
Yep.
Yep.
In the house.
retail,
Warehouses.
a warehouse?
It's, I mean, if you read the intent behind the business highway, it's to be in a visual place where passing customers would be attracted to a product being sold. And at that location, that's really not the case because, for one thing, it's basically one way. So,
Okay.
Mr. Armstrong, would you like to come up?
Just one quick question. Just a quick question. I was wondering if this is another project that would have I'm not sure the correct word to use, but a tax.
No.
It would be straightforward?
I don't think they've asked for a pilot or anything.
No pilot or anything?
No.
we haven't thought of that yet.
Don't think of it.
No, it adds to the tax roll for sure.
Anybody else have any questions on this one?
No, it seems to be a reasonable fit in the neighborhood because you are abutting other residential. It's not like this is being dropped in the middle of a business, a park, and you're putting in an apartment. So it seems to be a reasonable fit. And also, too, the one-floor plan is really much more popular from when I'm talking to other people with apartments. People seem to like the one-floor design, like you're proposing, not having the apartment split over 2 floors. Yeah.
Anybody anything else?
Question.
Would you like to come back up, ma'am?
I'll get it, Billy.
That's all right.
I just have one other question. At Casper Kill Ridge, we have a playground because we have children in the development. Is that something that's going to be planned for? Because I assume 2 bedrooms would include children?
Mike, is there a playground on there?
There's no playground proposed.
But they pay a recreation fee?
Okay.
Yeah, they pay a recreation fee for every
We're
unit.
just providing a recreation area to the this was discussed, this was discussed with the planning board, and what we're proposing is a picnic area in the back and an area in the back for residents to picnic. But there's no physical playground that's being proposed.
Yeah, but they're just a short distance down the road from both Bowden Park and our Sheaf Road
Sheaf
Park.
Road.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's children's playgrounds in the area.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Whereas the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie having held a duly noticed public hearing on the 11th day of July 2018 at 7 PM at the town of Poughkeepsie Town Hall, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, to amend by local law Town Code Chapter 210, Section 210-11, to change the zoning map designation of Poughkeepsie tax parcel 615901283-578, owned by Forson Realty Corp. Located on Sheaf Road, from the Highway Business BH District to Multifamily Residence RM District. And whereas the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board acting as lead agency for the development of this parcel and this rezone has determined that the adoption of this amendment would not have a significant adverse effect on environment and issued a negative declaration. And whereas on June 19, 2018, the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to General Municipal Law 239M advised that the adoption of the amendment is a matter of local concern. And whereas a written recommendation dated June 6, 2018 was received from the Planning Board recommending the adoption of the Heron Zoning Amendment. And whereas the town clerk has notified the clerks of surrounding municipalities of this public hearing pursuant to GML 239NN. And whereas legal notice of this public hearing was posted on June 18, 2018, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on June 22, 2018, and now therefore be it further enacted pursuant to Article 3, 210-11 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code that the zone designation of the tax parcel number 6159-01-283578 located on Sheaf Road, Town of Poughkeepsie, consisting of approximately 4 acres of land is hereby amended from Highway Business BH District to Resident Multifamily RM District, and be it further enacted that said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any more questions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to echo something. I came in late, and I wished I hadn't. My companion told me that there was a moment of silence with Tom Murphy. I worked with Tom for 6 years as a town attorney, and he was a wonderful, great guy, a tremendous guy. So we missed him.
Thank you, Pat. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 2, code amendment for McDonald Heights District.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Welty.
Okay, hello again. So just as a reminder, this public hearing is related to zoning text amendments for the McDonald Heights Central District that have been proposed by my department. One of the things, as I mentioned when we first talked about this in June, was that as we look at this project and the planning board is in the process of getting close to a conditional approval of the project, we know that under today's economic climate that we're going to need, that the applicant will need to subdivide this property again later for the purposes of financial, the financing of the project. And so what we feel confident about is that we have we've gone through a process where we have a project now that has gone through extensive site plan review, has gone through seeker review, and the project as it is currently conceived makes a lot of sense. What we don't want to end up with is if in the drawing of lot lines later on, when they need to subdivide for financial purposes, having to come back and do a whole host of variances and, jump through a lot of hoops that way, which isn't really in anyone's best interest. So the primary purpose of this zoning and text amendment is to give the planning board some flexibility when we are looking at those future subdivisions. There's also some other items in here that are really meant to just clean up some language that we've learned has been very difficult to work with. So, and that's it. So, we did get a positive recommendation from the planning board, and also the county has gotten back to us with a, saying that it's a matter of local concern.
Is there anybody else that would just like to discuss the McDonald Heights project? No? Anybody on the board? We're gonna hopefully adjourn this till next week, so Mike will have more documentation for us to clean up everything together next week. So just open it, we'll adjourn it till next week. Any questions at this point? No? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this till July 18th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Public hearing number 3. Town Code Amendment, Chapter 203, Water Rates. Mr. Emberger, would you like to come up in case we have any questions? No motion to open that public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to discuss public hearing number 3? If not, Charlie, you want to just give us a quick rundown?
We've been looking at last couple of years, the water, I guess, rents or sales from water have not been covering the expenses for the water department. And the rates have not raised in over 5 years. So we're looking at moving ahead, getting it so where the rents cover our expenses. We're looking at the water department. They have several major projects that'll be coming up. Painting the water tanks. There was some valves. We had 2 major breaks in the last 2 years with a certain valve, with the butterfly valve. And from what I understand, there's 6 or 8 more still in the town that can go at any time. So there's putting a plan in place to replace them as we go. So these major projects coming up, plus the expenses, so we decided that it's time for a small increase to cover these expenses. We're going from $2 to $2.50 per 100 cubic feet. We are still the lowest in the county. The city of Poughkeepsie, which uses the same water, charges $4.20 100 cubic feet and $4.50 for their sewer. So we're still way below those rates.
And those two are extremely low, because after that, a lot of the other towns go up to over $6 a cubic foot. And one of the issues that we're looking at, and Bill can attest as being on joint water board, we're looking at items that we put off years down there, and we're gonna see an increase on that end of things going up down there on top of the exercise. And this, these valves, the valve that went last year was a 30-inch main, which was almost $80,000, I think, to repair, and that's almost our whole repair.
Yeah,
There's more to do down there, so it's going to be a big bill.
It did wipe out basically
That
that
wiped out our
budget
repair.
line, you know.
And Bill's talking about is we had a lift station went down the water plant, we have to repair those, and nothing is $1,000, everything's 50 or 100,000. And we started looking at our budget for down there this year, and we're looking at an increase down there for the water, just because of the process that we've changed, and EPA has changed the standards to make better quality water, so that's costing more for chemicals and ozone treatment and different things we're constantly looking at. So to get better quality water, it's costing a little more, and as Charlie said, we haven't gone up in 5 years, and we are starting to eat into the fund balance, and we're really sitting the bottom level, and I would like to move forward with a program. You talked to Keith and Tom about making sure we're exercising a lot of these valves and replacing the ones that are going before we end up with 5-degree weather and half our departments out there in the middle of the night. So you don't see it underground. It's hard to fathom what we're repairing and what we need to repair, but we really have to maintain our infrastructure, because without water, we're all out of business. So I think it's a well-needed increase. It's not a large increase, and it should hold us for a few years going forward, I think.
Right, and the plan is to any excess that we do get, I want to set up a reserve for these capital improvements. So at the end of the year, we'll see how much excess we have, I'll move that into a reserve so we can start building up that reserve, so when these capital projects come up, we won't have to borrow.
Anybody have any other questions on this one?
Well, just to reiterate, these increases are not as big as they look in the resolution because we've already been charging, what is it, 15 for the meter rental and $2 for
Right.
per 100 feet?
Yeah.
200, yeah,
Yeah,
$2.
So it's not as big an increase.
Yeah,
as
they
it-
just weren't updated
Right, yeah.
in the code book.
So we're going from $2 to $2.50.
Correct. Yes.
That's per 1,000 gallons.
Per 100 cubic feet, which is about 750 gallons.
Okay. Any other questions? Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Carlos. Motion passes.
Be it enacted that the
Close the
town
public
board of the town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held on July 11th, 2018 at 7 PM at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt the following local law amendments to the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, Chapter 203, Water, Article 1, Townwide Water Improvement Area, Section 203, Subsection 8, Rates, Charges, and Billings, and billing subsections A and B as follows, with the language to be added underscored and the language to be deleted stricken. Effective August 13th, 2018, the minimum rent per quarter, which includes rental of the meter, if any, shall be $18.75. B, effective billing, August 13th, 2008, all water shall be billed at the rate of $2.50 per 100 cubic feet. Be it further enacted that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie has determined that this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review, and be it further enacted that the public, be it further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on 6/29/2018 and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on July 3rd, 2018, and be it further enacted that said local law will take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Coming to public hearing number 4, Town Code Amendment, Chapter 168, T1, sewer rates. Make a motion to open public hearing number 4.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. As you know, our sewer rates go hand in hand with our water rates. Probably want to give us a,
Basically, it's a similar situation. However, we don't have sewer throughout the whole town, so it's not like town-wide water. So there's special districts are set up for the sewer. And they're being taxed to help cover the maintenance or the annual cost to run the sewer plant and the transport and whatnot. By doing this, the people using the sewer will be paying more and covering, so we can, they'll take more of their share. A family of 6 is paying the same as a family of 2 right now, so as the usage goes up, they'll be paying more for more usage. And again, with the new plant, everything's increasing. I think it's $11 million bond we took out last year, so the costs are rising.
that plant's just about finished. That bond's going to start paying that bond next year. So that'll be a big number to put in there. And the same thing, we've made a more efficient plant, a better plant. The plant gained some volume when we increased it. And as you know, Brooklyn Farms became part of that plant. So we've actually, I think, done a good thing for the town as far as that goes, putting it all in one spot. But the other thing is, in order to keep our pump stations going and meeting all our DEC consent orders, we really need to get somebody. We've been doing good on getting grants and so forth, but we have a lot of work to do on our lines. Have been let go for many years. We're doing a lot of slip lining, which was one of the bids we just went out to a couple weeks ago to get all the I&I out, which is just taking rainwater and flushing it down through the sewer plants, which costs us a fortune in the process.
Charlie, why did the Fourth Ward take such a hit? It looked like it went up from 150 to 3 in Bradley Village, the Fourth Ward Sewer District in Fairview.
I gotta look at the rates. Just in the sewer?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Fairview District was 120, it was 150, went to $3. Bradley Village went from 150 to $3. And, what else? There was another one there.
Fourth Ward Sewer Improvement Area.
Yeah, why did that go up so much when everybody else went up about 30, 18 cents, 30 cents.
Charlie, these the houses are just sewer and they don't actually have water?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so it's not a large volume, there's only a few houses.
I'm trying to find it, Mike, but I know it has to do, it's in,
I'm just looking at,
That's a flat rate.
No, that's backwards. He's talking about the increase in the cubic yard.
All right.
150 or $3.
Are they the ones in the city, Charlie?
yes, it's, yeah.
Bradley Village went from 150 to $3. Fairview Sewer District went from 150 to $3.
I'm trying to find it, Mike. I don't-
The front page. Bradley Village is fifth one down.
Do you have a copy of the table, Charlie?
No, I don't. Let me,
Sheet with the justification.
Tell why, but.
I'm not complaining, I'm happy to have sewer, but, wonder why it's so.
No, you're right. Honestly, Mike, I don't know if I have to go back and look why. Maybe I did a typo. I'll double check this for you before we put it through. But you're right, I don't know why it would go up. It shouldn't go up to 3. Everything else went up to 1.875.
Charlie, you had an answer because you gave me the answer on the first water sewer was the same thing.
I know, it's all in that first ward. It's all in that, the city
The city and the first ward, the two
and
small ones.
district. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Sorry, it happens.
Yeah, and is both columns for people who do not have water, or is it just the first column, you get the flat rate where they don't have water, so that's the sewer, and then the
This is
second
per
one,
Cubic, per 100 cubic yards.
so this is the people, the second column is people who do have,
Have water, right?
okay.
Which is where the big change is.
I'd have to get back to you, Mike, I really.
Get back.
But I know, like Jay said, I think it was something with the city.
Because I brought up the first word one, the first word was a high jump too, and I brought that one up too, and I don't remember what our answer was.
Well, I know we have the pump station down there, we did some repairs down there, is that why?
No, there's a charge. I think there is, I'm guessing, I know there's a charge for those 3 districts to do with the city, because come budget time, they get a different budget than the rest of the districts. I'd be guessing, I'm sorry, I don't want to come out, I'll have to check and get to you.
Okay.
But, yeah, apologize.
Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
All right, motion to close the public hearing?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Mike?
Be enacted, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on July 11, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt the following local law amendments to Town Code, Chapter 168, Sewers, Part 1, Rates and Fees, Article I. Sewer rates, sewer rental rates and user fees, 168-8, Table 168-T1. And be it further enacted, the amendments are attached here too, incorporated herein, with the language to be added, underscored, and the language to be deleted, stricken. And the town board does hereby waive verbatim reading of said amendments and does direct that said amendments be spread across the record as if they in fact have been read verbatim. And be it further enacted, the town board, Town of Poughkeepsie, has determined that this action is type 2 action requiring no environmental review. And be it further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on 6/29/2018 and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on 7/3/2018. And be it further enacted that the said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Any motion second? Any more questions?
Mike, do you want to take some time to figure out what that is, or are you?
No, I'm sure there's a valid reason. I'm okay with it.
We'll dig it out. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to the end of our public hearings for the town board agenda. Number 5 is accept the certificate of attendance for Peter Finelli for Planning Board. 6, accept certificate of attendance for Carl Whitehead for the Planning Board. 7, set a date for public hearing for code amendment for vehicle and traffic side. 8, approve the minutes from the town clerk's office. 9, an IMA shared service with county procurement specialist. 10, authorize supervisor sign memorandum of understanding with NYSDCJS. Accept the resignation of Charlie Franzenberger. Accept the resignation of Sarah Hutchinson. Accept the resignation of Matthew Smith. Appoint Barbara Decker, temporary full-time police assistant. Authorize Neaters Kershaw subdivision off of Tamarack Road names for 9/11. 16, town clerk to re-advertise for non-potable water pump is going to be withdrawn until the 18th. They have to change some dates on it. 17, authorize a tax cert settlement for Lowe's. 18, temporary CO fee reduction. 19, special consent. Special consent 1 is Poughkeepsie Elks Club Motorcycle Rally. Special consent 2 is Poughkeepsie Elks Club Car Show. Special consent 3 is 2 claims to refer to legal. We'll make a motion to suspend the rules for any item on the agenda for public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong.
Number 17, the tax settlement for Lowe's, does that mean that they put in that they don't want to pay the taxes that they have now and they want it reduced?
They want it reduced. Correct.
Because they're not doing the business they used to do? Did they give it
They
a
just-
reason why they think it should be?
That I don't know.
Down?
That was done from downstairs, but the tax settlement is going down from 11,590,000. 2017, no reduction. 2018, it's going down to 10,948,000, $600,000 reduction. And it goes down from there. They're just saying that they're overassessed is what their tax cert came in as. What they used as far as their tactic in the discussion with the assessor is, I don't know what they're actually.
And what are they looking for now?
Yeah, they're gonna go down from 11,590.
To 10,9, whatever?
10,304 in 2020. Yeah, $10,304,000.
I guess it upsets me that some of the times I've seen, it seems like every time the companies come in for these things, it's because they're not doing the business they used to do or things have changed. People like us that are on fixed income, retired, my dollar's worth less every year. I don't get any tax rebate or reduction. I put in for it and they tell me, well, too bad. It's going up, it ain't going down.
That's what happened. Some people have the same, the homeowner has the same chance to do it,
Yeah,
tax rate, but.
I know they have
yeah.
a chance to do it, but very seldom it happens. I had it reduced for 1 year, and they said next year, well, that was only for 1 year. It's going back up to what it was, and we're going to increase it even more. So, if you talk about getting kicked in the butt and discouraged, yet these big businesses can come along and say, we're paying too much, we don't want to pay that much, okay, don't pay that much. It just, as a taxpayer, my dollar's worth less every year because I'm on a fixed income.
I agree with that.
It's ridiculous.
Anybody else like to discuss any item on the agenda? If not, motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Michael? No, Matt?
Oh, it's me. Sorry.
Number 5.
Yep. There we go. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the certificates of attendance for Peter Finelli from Dutchess County Planning Federation for the course entitled Common Mistakes in the Land Use and Secret Process, a copy of which is attached. So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any questions on that? Nope. Just want to thank Peter for taking this class. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the certificates of attendance for Carl H. Whitehead from the Dutchess County Planning Federation for the course entitled Common Mistakes in Land Use and Secret Processes, a copy of which is attached. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second on that one. Any questions? Again, just thank Carl for putting his time in to stay up to date for the planning board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the first day of August 2018, 7 p.m. Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider local law amendments to Town Code Chapter 195 entitled Vehicle and Traffic, specifically 195-36, Schedule I, 195-44, Schedule 9 and 195-47, Schedule 12, to remove the traffic control signal at Sites Terrace and Van Wagner Road, and to add 4 stop signs, Sites Terrace South at Springside Avenue, all-way LED blinker, Van Wagner Road North at Sites Terrace, all-way, Van Wagner Road at Sites Terrace South, all the way, and Springside Avenue East at Van Wagner Road, all the way, and to add a crosswalk on Van Wagner Road, just west of its intersection with Arlington Avenue, all as detailed on Exhibit A, annexed here too, with the language to be added, underscored, and language to be deleted, stricken, which exhibit is incorporated herein by reference as it were read verbatim. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie has determined that this is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. Be resolved that said amendment, if adopted, will take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
A motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the minutes for the following 2018 Town Board meetings, to wit, April 18th, 2018 regular Town Board meeting, May 2nd, 2018 regular Town Board meeting, May 16th, 2018 regular Town Board meeting, June 6th, 2018 regular Town Board meeting, and June 20th, 2018 regular Town Board meeting. So moved.
Second.
Good, motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Item 9, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute an intermunicipal agreement between the Town of Poughkeepsie and the County of Dutchess, under which the town may utilize the services of a Dutchess County procurement specialist at a contract cost of $60 per hour for assistance in the development of bids and requests for proposal, the posting of them, and the valuation of the proposals and bids received. And be it further resolved, this adoption of this resolution is in part of the ongoing administration of the town as a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions on this?
Yes, actually, the Exhibit A that we're given here, the copy of the agreement to be signed, is full of a lot of blanks. I assume they're going to be filled in with Town of Poughkeepsie where it says unit of local government, but there's nothing for the date ranges that this covers.
They will be filled in, and it also, we don't have to do anything with them. This is just an option as part of the shared service that they give this available, because one of the comments I had is a lot of times our engineering department does them. If it's something that's not worthy of turning it over to them to give them all that information, we do it in-house. It's just something that they offer to us. So we're not committed to doing all our procurement from them, any of our procurement. It was just one of the offers that came up last year during shared services, and they reached out and said we hadn't got on for this, and I said I think we should. We don't have to use it at all.
Right.
It may be good for some of the bigger ones.
It's sort of in perpetuity, or does it have an end date?
No, there's no end date as of
Okay.
now. No,
Very good.
unless somewhere the staff and the manpower changes and they just have to change their mind. But it was an offer that I don't think, it's not cost us anything, and the cost is cheaper than in-house staff, so I think it,
If you wanted by separate motion, to authorize the contract for 1, 3, 5 years, whatever, you could do that.
I think we're pretty limited to our 2 years anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, if it goes longer than that, you can rescind it.
Yeah, so I think we're okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor or his designee to execute a memorandum of understanding between the Town of Poughkeepsie and New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services on behalf of signatories to the original Hudson Valley Crime Scene Analysis Center Memorandum of Understanding in substantially the form presented. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on that?
Yeah, actually, this looks like a great deal, and I just found out too that we don't have to pay anything for this. You just become involved with them. So that's great.
It's funded, and I think it's the 8th or 9th one in the state. It's local, and I think it'd definitely be a benefit. Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Charlie LaFranz Emberger from the part-time assessor's aide position in the assessing department effective June 30th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this? I just want to thank Charlie for the time that she was here, and good luck in her position in another town as an assessor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Sarah Hutchinson from the full-time police assistant position in the police department effective July 5th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on this?
No, we wish her well in her new position.
Correct. She's just moving on to a better position, so wish her all the luck and thank her for her service to the town. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. This one line. Be it resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie is hereby accept with regret the resignation of Matthew Smith from the substitute court attendant position in town court effective July 31st, 2018. So moved.
Second.
The motion and second. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Good luck, Matt.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Barbara Decker to the current vacant full-time position on the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department on a temporary basis not to exceed 90 days starting July 12th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
The motion and second. Any questions on this? She'll be filling in for the vacancy that we just got temporarily till we get somebody in that slot. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 15, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the private road name for identification purposes only for lot number 10 of the Niders Kershaw subdivision off Tamarack Hill Drive as follows. 1 Manos Drive. And be it further resolved that upon adoption of this resolution, said resolution shall be sent to the 911 facility for Dutchess County by the town clerk of the town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
16 has been removed. 17.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. 16 has been withdrawn until the July 18th meeting. 17.
Be it resolved, town board, town of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorized the settlement of taxatory proceedings instituted by Lowe's Home Centers Incorporated for tax settlement rolls 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020 as shown on the attached. Be it further resolved that town board, town of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorized the supervisor or his designee, town assessor, and Kyle Burnett of Vanderwater and Vanderwater LLP to sign such papers as necessary to effectuate this settlement. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I just want the public to be aware that there was no refund with this. It's just lowering the assessment, but we're not doing any refunds.
No, correct. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 18, whereas Michelle Dial, co-executor of the estate of Thomas Dial Jr., Mr. Dial, having been a principal in 10 Tucker Drive LLC, owner, has requested a partial waiver of outstanding temporary certificate of occupancy fees for the 5,300 square foot bus maintenance area portion of the structures at 10 to 14 Tucker Drive as shown on a draft site plan by Maury Architects dated November 24th, 2014, and last revised on April 17th, 2015. And whereas the owner was unable to fully utilize the structures at 10 to 14 Tucker Drive for their otherwise allowed purposes because of a downgrade sewer flow impairment and a litigation related to that impairment, now therefore be it resolved that on receipt of a release and indemnification agreement form, the owner in form acceptable to the attorney, the town, Poughkeepsie Town Board for itself and all districts and improvements serving 10 to 14 Tucker Drive will accept a payment of 25%, $6,312.50 in satisfaction of the $25,250 temporary certificate of occupancy fees, which are due through the July 11th, 2018, for the bus maintenance area, provided that the owner accept corrected certificates of occupancy for the several structures at 10 to 14 Tucker Drive, which reflect their approved or actual uses, whichever generates a lower amount of wastewater. And be it further resolved that the execution of this agreement is part of the ongoing administration of the affairs of the town, districts, and improvements, and is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, anybody got any questions on this one? All those in favor? Against?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit. 1, authorize Poughkeepsie Elks Club Motorcycle Rally. 2, authorize Poughkeepsie Elks Club Car Show. 3, notification of the following claims have been referred to legal. 1, I have no idea, Single Hatch? Single Hatch versus Town subrogation. 2, Donnyworth versus Town. Be further resolved that upon objection of any member of the town board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby approve the application submitted by Norm Dennis on behalf of the Poughkeepsie Elks Club to hold a motorcycle rally for cerebral palsy on Sunday, July 15, 2018, 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Poughkeepsie Elks Club, 29 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby approve the application as submitted for said event contingent upon receipt by the town of certificate of liability insurance naming the town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on this? The only question I got, is this an outside event or an inside event?
Outside.
Okay, can we just make sure, after we had a couple last year, try not to prep too early in the morning? Because we had a weekend event. It wasn't them, but just to make sure, we had calls that, the bands were starting at 7:30, 8
How
o'clock.
can I make sure of that?
Just send them a note to remind them, please don't set up too early and
Don't say-
just be coherent to the neighbors behind them, because if it is outside. Because that's really, most of these events, we don't have any issues, but they're on a weekend or Sunday morning, a lot of times they're setting up early and they do disrupt some of the neighbors. We've had no issues with this one there. I'm just trying to prepare ourselves. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application submitted by Norm Dennis on behalf of the Poughkeepsie Elks Club to hold a car show Sunday, July 22nd, 2018, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. on the Poughkeepsie Elks property, 29 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application as submitted for said event contingent upon receipt by the town of certificate of liability insurance naming the town of Poughkeepsie as the additional insured. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0. And SC3 is just a notice of claim, Sinhatch versus the town, and Duddy versus the town. We've come to the end of our meeting. The motion to resume the rules for any public comment at all?
Second.
Aye.
Anybody would like to make any comment at all? Going once. Charlie?
Found it, Charlie?
I don't know if you are aware, we got hit last week with a ransom virus. And I think we were well prepared to handle it. We were down for one day, only to check each individual computer to find out where it came in. Because if we didn't do that and they booted up again, it would have started all over. So we shut down, really we lost service on one day. We found out it came in through an email, and the email was down for 2 days till we got everything rebooted. We were prepared. We had a secondary backup source that is off-site and not connected. So when it goes and finds all the servers, this was not found. So we're able to load right back up and presume business. So I just wanted to let you guys know, IT and CSI came over here at 10 in the morning. We're here all day and 2 days really to clear it up. We never had to pay any ransom, and really no time was lost.
No, the biggest time lost was the fact of going computer to computer and everybody being down, and I think everybody worked great to put together. CSI came in and worked with Mark and IT and Charlie. You guys, Taryn did a phenomenal job going computer to computer to everywhere in the town, whether it was water, sewer. They went to every computer, and I think we had enough protection that it came in, came to an email server company is where it came. They think they came to. Originally we thought it was Munis, so we went through and they ironed them all out. It took them a whole day to go through it, but I think Charlie and Mark and the team that went through did a phenomenal job. And the bottom line is we didn't pay. We were protected. As Mark says, it's not a matter of how well our protection is. It's a matter it works when it's supposed to. They can try 100 times. They only have to get in once, and they weren't able to get into anything. Charlie happened to be on the phone with the banks at the time to make sure everything was in place. That was the first call. They happened to be there at the time. So it worked out to make sure everything was in and everything worked really the way it was supposed to.
No, I just, give you a heads up. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.